Good evening. I'm Alan Joins. I call Mayor Winston-Salem. I call to order this October 18th meeting of the Winston-Salem City Council. Pursuant to the policy and procedures adopted by the City Council relative to virtual meetings, I've determined it is not feasible for the City Council and I to meet together tonight physically. And due to this pandemic, all council members are participating virtually. Council members will vote by a roll call vote. A council member will be recognized and state their vote. Would the city clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Larson.
Present.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Mundy.
Present.
Councilmember Scipio.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Here.
Councilmember Taylor.
Present.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Here.
And Councilmember Burke.
Here.
Thank you all very much. We have a full attendance. Would you please join the City Council and me in a moment of silence?
It's their end. No, I have my.
Thank you very much. Tonight's agenda of the City Council is comprised of two parts, the general agenda and the consent agenda. It's always a practice of this council to take the consent agenda first. Items on this agenda have been unanimously recommended by a committee of the City Council or are being submitted in accordance with established city procedure. There'll be no discussion of the items on this agenda unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed and considered individually. Items not removed will be considered and enacted by one motion. We're televising this meeting live tonight on TV 13, and it will be replayed tomorrow at 9 a.m. and again Wednesday at 9 p.m. Copies of our agenda as well as videos of our meetings are always available online at the city's website, www.cityofws.org. Select the city government menu and then click on the Watch Meeting Online option. Council members, are there any items you wish to pull from the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, C12.
Hold on. Okay, hold on just a second. I forgot we've got a couple of proclamations to present. So let's do those first. Item H1.
Item H1, proclamation declaring October 2021 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas domestic violence is a pattern of coercion in intimate relationships where one person uses violence to gain power and control over a partner and/or other family members. And whereas domestic violence is a crime that violates the individual's dignity, humanity, privacy, and security through systematic control and abuse. And whereas domestic violence may include emotional, mental, physical, sexual, financial, or psychological abuse and/or violence. And whereas the national health-related cost of rape, physical assault, stalking, and homicides committed by intimate partners exceed $5.8 billion each year. And whereas people of all ages, races, religious affiliations, sexual orientations, and socioeconomic backgrounds are vulnerable to domestic abuse. And according to the Centers for Disease Control, nearly 1 in 4 women and 1 in 10 men in the United States have experienced contact sexual violence, physical violence, and/or stalking by an inmate partner during their lifetimes. And whereas the city of Winston-Salem is committed to taking a firm position against domestic violence and will remain focused on ensuring that all people are safe in their homes and that abusers are held accountable for their crimes. And whereas with many agencies, departments, and survivors working together to promote awareness, including through the Bridges to Hope Family Justice Center of Forsyth County, we can protect the vulnerable, stop the violence, restore hope, and make our community safer for everyone. Now, therefore, I, J. Allen Joins, Mayor of the City of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim October 2021 to be National Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Winston-Salem and encourage all residents to show support for survivors of domestic violence and to actively participate in efforts to end violence in their homes, schools, and community. Given under my hand and seal this 18th day of October 2021.
Thank you. I'm very happy to present this proclamation to Jay Nelson Weaver, who's Vice President of Clinical and Community Services at Family Services. Ms. Weaver, would you like to say a word?
Yes, thank you very much. And I appreciate the proclamation. We wanted to say thank you to everyone with the city and our whole community who is working together to reduce domestic violence. Over the past year, over 1,200 survivors have been served by family services in our community. We did not stop one day for the pandemic, as I know you all didn't either. So we say a special thank you to Winston-Salem Police Department, victim assistance, all the staff at the police department, as well as with the Housing Authority, who often accepts survivors out of our shelter who need a safe place to go, and all the city agencies that we connect with. We appreciate all you do, and thank you for the partnership serving our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Weaver. Thank you for everything you do at Family Services. May we have H2, please?
Item H2, proclamation declaring October 2021 National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Whereas October 2021 marks the 76th anniversary of National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Tracing back to 1945, National Employ the Physically Handicapped Week. In 1988, Congress expanded the week to a month and changed the name to National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And whereas workplaces welcoming of the talents of all people, including people with disabilities, are a critical part of our efforts to build an inclusive community and strong economy. And whereas activities during this month will reinforce the value and talent people with disabilities add to our workplaces and communities, and affirm Winston-Salem, Forsyth County, and North Carolina's commitment to an inclusive community that increases access and opportunities to all, including individuals with disabilities. And whereas Winston-Salem, Forsyth County, and North Carolina recognize and commemorate the 76th anniversary of National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And whereas employers, schools, and other community organizations in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County, and North Carolina observe October with appropriate programs and activities, and to advance its important message that people with disabilities add value and talent to our workplaces and communities. Now, therefore, I, J. Ellen Joins, Mayor of the City of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim Monday, October 18th, 2021 as National Disability Employment Awareness Month, given under my hand and seal this 18th of October, 2021.
Thank you. And I'm very pleased to present this to Mrs. Tony King, who is the Unit Manager at the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. Ms. King, would you like to say a word?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Joins, City Council members, distinguished guests, and citizens. Thank you for the proclamation recognizing October as National Disability Employment Awareness Month. This is held every year to commemorate the many and varied contributions of people with disabilities to America's workplaces and economy. NDEAM celebrates America's workers with disabilities and emphasizes the importance of inclusive policies and practices to ensure that all Americans who want to work can work and have access to services and supports to enable them to do so. This year's theme, America's Recovery, Powered by Inclusion, reflects
Did we lose Ms. King? Well, we will go on. Thank you very much, Ms. King, and appreciate the work that you're doing there at the Health and Human Services. We'll now go back to the consent agenda. I know Councilmember Scipio asked for item C12.
Yes, thank you.
Are there other items, council members? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the ballots.
So move, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Second,
And
Clark.
Councilmember Clark, seconds. Any discussion? All right, we'll go to the roll call. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy.
Aye.
Councilmember Scipio.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abt.
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Aye.
And Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Thank you very much. It's unanimous to approve the ballots. We'll now go to item C12, if you'd read that.
Item C12, resolution awarding construction contract for Robbins Road culvert replacement.
Councilmember Scipio.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to have staff give us an update on the status of this repair and why it is not as easy to repair as the Bethabra Road repair that was just done.
Okay, Ms. King, this would fall under you, I think.
That's correct. Good evening, Mayor Joins, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. I'm going to recognize our TFO Director, Keith Huff, to give a brief update on this per Councilmember Scipio's request.
Mr. Huff?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and members of the City Council. Now the video started. I apologize. Councilmember Scipio, this project, as you're aware, is a replacement of a failed 72-inch pipe in Robbins Road, where the scope of work is replacement of that pipe system and associated end treatments and resurfacing of the road. To your question on the timing, this particular pipe was a pipe in a floodplain, and it had utility conflicts with Duke Energy. So basically, staff had to navigate the floodplain issues and deal with the utility issues as well. But at this point, we have 100% design drawings, and what you have before you tonight for approval is award of a construction contract for replacement of that pipe system. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Huff.
Yeah, and when that is, once the contract is awarded, the residents can expect completion of that project when?
So, Councilmember Scipio, we would award the contract and then issue the notice to proceed. And when the notice to proceed is issued to the contractor, they would then order materials like the pipe. So prospectively, if those materials are available, the contractor could get to work theoretically on the site in December. And we're looking for a construction window of approximately 2 to 2.5 months, weather permitting.
Thank you very much. I think that sometimes residents believe that some repairs should be immediate. And I know this one has taken a lot of time because of the nature of the repair. So I would hope that our residents on Robbins Road that have been affected will understand that we are moving as quickly as we can to get this done and have that road open, hopefully, by the end of the first quarter of 2022. Is that about right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Can I get a motion, Councilmember Scipio?
Yes, sir. I move that we approve C12.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion. All right. I'll go to the roll call. Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Alan, you broke up, but I'm yes if I'm next.
Right. Councilmember Mundy?
Aye.
Councilmember Scipio?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams?
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh?
Aye.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Thank you. That is unanimous. Thank you, Councilmember Scipio. The council will now go to the general agenda, which is comprised of the following items. There are 2 street closing petitions, a report from the downtown Winston-Salem Business Improvement District, an item related to the purchase of a lot in support of the city's affordable housing objectives, an item related to the city's COVID-19 vaccination policy, 3 items related to boards and commissions, the public comment period, and a closed session. Street closing petitions are listed as public hearings, and when these public hearings are called, persons who would like to speak will be called on, which time we would request that you give your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes each. If no one wishes to speak, I'll close the public hearing, and the City Council will consider the item. I'll point out that written comments were accepted on the public hearing items until 24 hours prior to the start of this meeting. The public comment period is a time once per month that the City Council invites citizens to speak to us on matters that are germane to city government. When the virtual comment period is called, each speaker will be given 3 minutes for their comments, and the comment period will be limited to a total of 30 minutes. Ms. Keeney, would you please read the first item?
Item G1, continuation of public hearing on petition to close and abandon Farrell Court, petition of Steel Rolling Hills LLC, recommended by Public Works Committee. This item was continued from the September 20th, 2021 City Council meeting.
Thank you. We did continue this because there's a need to tie this to a settlement agreement that will be discussed later. Has anyone signed up to be heard on this item? Hearing, seeing no one has signed up, I will close the public hearing and would recognize the Chairman of the Public Works Committee, Councilor McIntosh.
I move to approve item G1.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Scipio. I know this is your ward, so I know you're anxious to move this along as well. Any further discussion?
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Attorney Cameron.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. I'm sorry, I think I sent the motion to Councilmember Scipio. The motion actually should be for approval of item G1, contingent upon City Council approving the settlement, proposed settlement in the case of State of North Carolina on relation of the City of Winston-Salem versus Steel Rolling Hills, which will be discussed, as you indicated, in closed session tonight. So if the settlement is not approved, the petitioner does not wish to proceed with the street closures. So with that understanding, then please proceed.
Councilor McIntosh, you'd accept that definition of your motion?
That's fine. I missed the memo.
What I heard him say.
My fault. Wrong one. All right, so a yes vote will approve the street closing subject to the settlement agreement. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy.
Aye.
Councilmember Scipio.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Thank you. That is unanimous. Now, item G2.
Item G2, public hearing on a petition to close and abandon a portion of an alleyway off of North Cameron Avenue, petition of David Carpenter, recommended by Public Works Committee.
This is a public hearing. Has everyone signed up? Seeing that no one has signed up to be heard on this one, I will close the public hearing. Again, this item is in the East Ward again, but I will recognize the Chairman of the Public Works Committee.
Since I jumped in front of Councilmember Scipio last time, I'm going to let her have the honor of
I'll recommend. Yeah.
Thank you. I move for approval of item G1.
second.
I mean, G2.
G2. All right. So any discussion? All right. We'll move to the roll call. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy.
Aye.
Councilmember Scipio.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Thank you. That is unanimous. We will have item G3.
Item G3, presentation of the fiscal year 2020-2021 annual report of the Downtown Winston-Salem Business Improvement District.
Thank you. I'd recognize Mr. Jason Thiel, who is president of the Downtown Winston-Salem Partnership. Mr. Thiel, if you would unmute yourself and give us your presentation regarding the Downtown Improvement District.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and members of the City Council. I appreciate you allowing me to make this presentation. It is required by the state legislation when we enacted the Business Improvement District. And so I will be brief, but I did want to say that the map that you see on the screen potentially is, I hope to highlight to the listeners and others watching that this is the Business Improvement District is a special assessment district in the downtown Winston-Salem area that was passed in 2014. The funds that are spent in the district are raised from the property owners only within the district, and it's not expenditure of general fund dollars or other city funds. So I wanted to, we do have an advisory committee that is made up of various stakeholders in downtown that make recommendations. It's a 10-member group and they make recommendations to you. for consideration. The main highlights that I wanted to share with you is that we've had a very busy year. If you come downtown, you may witness that we have folks working on the sidewalks during early mornings and afternoons. And oftentimes they have a uniform that's in orange in color, sometimes blue, but they are busy working, picking up many different things. They help us with so much, and we're very grateful for their work. And they've been busy during the pandemic. There are times when we pick up all kinds of different things, but they're very busy with everything from snow removal during the winter to power washing to making sure that all of our trash can receptacles are clean. And we also maintain the pet stations with our growing resident population is very important. We also engage in marketing programs and social media advancement. And I wanted to share with you that we've had tremendous traffic online. Probably like many people during the pandemic, online traffic has been very busy. We have expanded our efforts with social media. Other projects include development, accelerated development efforts, assisting with data and other statistics. We also look to supplement many of our other existing work. We have upcoming programs such as Shop the Block and holiday programs. We did the streetery during the middle of the pandemic, and we're very busy with other things like parking deck banners. I will keep it there just to be brief and to respect your very important schedule, but I wanted, and it's required for us to make this report, but I also wanted to make sure that the message that we're sending is that we're very busy. We're thankful for the City Council creating this, and we're very active in the maintenance of the program.
Thank you, Mr. Thiel. And just for those individuals who are watching this, might not realize that the Downtown Business Improvement District is a district where the people who own property in that district have agreed to pay a slightly higher property tax rate to get extra services there, so it pays for itself. Councilmember McIntosh.
Yeah, I want to thank Jason for that report. It's hard to remember back to before the clean team. It's really remarkable how well kept our downtown looks. The extra greenery in the summer is fantastic. The lack of cigarette butts, the lack of gum, lack of graffiti. It wasn't that way before the clean team. So downtown is relatively spotless compared to what it was before. And I want to commend Jason and his crew for doing an excellent job.
Thank you. Any other questions of Mr. Thiel? Right. Thank you, Jason, for joining us tonight, and thank you for the great work there in the bid.
Thank you.
All right, item G4, please.
Item G4, resolution authorizing the purchase of a lot in support of the city's affordable housing objective located in the South Ward, recommended by Finance Committee with 2 in favor and 2 opposed.
Thank you very much. Since this did come from Finance with a split vote, I'm going to do the Solomon-like thing and recognize Councilmember Larson from the South Ward for a motion.
Thank you, Mayor Joines. Could we get a brief presentation from staff so people can understand, the public can understand exactly what we're talking about here? Because I think we're going to hear more about this in the years ahead.
Absolutely. Mr. King.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Joines. I'll share my screen here and just give a very brief comment on this. Can everyone see the screen okay there?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So the piece of property in question is this piece of property here, just over around 5 acres, located on the east side of Peters Creek Parkway, west side of Sides Road. This is just south of West Clemensville Road. What you can't see here, just to the north of this, is the city's water tank there that has the otter mural on it. So that's just an effort to kind of get you oriented to where we're looking at. Again, it's about 5.33 acres. It's zoned RS9. It's undeveloped. And the idea behind this effort would be to acquire this piece of property so that it could be used to help advance the city's goals around affordable housing.
Thank you, Mr. King, for that overview. Some of you on council may recall 7 years ago that a project to develop along Sides Road exploded with neighborhood objections that were rather visceral. And I think we're all concerned. I know that Councilmember Taylor made reference to it last time this came up about what we're going to do with this piece of property, whether or not it's going to have the same response. I've given a lot of thought to this project over the last week or two. And what my conclusion is that it's zoned R9 currently, and that's private sector development potential that falls outside of any additional control by the city. And I think Councilmember Taylor made a comment last week about a piece of property that basically said that if you own it, you can control what goes on it a little bit better. And I think that's the case here, where we've got a piece of property that's pivotal to the neighborhood's interest. And yet if the city's not involved in it in some way, R9 allows development that may or may not be of the interest to the neighborhood. So I'm interested in trying to get a little skin in the game here and provide some control to what happens in the neighborhood. And I think we have the potential for doing something creative and innovative here that maybe we haven't done before in our affordable housing objectives. And so I have a motion I'd like to put forward to the council this evening, and I would like to move for approval of the resolution, providing the same is revised to provide that the purchase of the lot is to support the city affordable housing objectives, in addition to the provision of workforce housing with a primary focus on home ownership. And I think the home ownership component is probably the key element in this proposal.
Second.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Taylor. Any further discussion? Councilmember Taylor.
Yeah, Mayor, members of the council, Mayor Pro Tem, I actually voted against this in finance because of some of the concerns that were addressed. Most of the concerns were centered around multifamily housing, and with this new addition to the motion, focusing a little bit more on workforce housing, single family housing, and home ownership, I think it makes sense that we have skin in the game, and I think we can put together a product that the neighbors can appreciate. So I was able to turn my vote around in support of affordable and workforce housing. As long as we don't bring multifamily to the table, I think we've got a deal. So thanks, Mr. Larson, for bringing that amendment to the motion.
Thank you, Councilmember Taylor. Councilmember McIntosh.
Yeah, John, Councilmember Larson, thank you for rearranging that, reworking that. I think this is an excellent move. I think that this does represent an opportunity for us to be creative. I think we can attract some development that will make both the neighborhood happy and also put additional units on the market, which is what we're all about. So I think this is a great deal.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to the roll call then. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy.
Aye.
Councilmember Scipio.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Thank you very much. That is unanimous. Thank you, Councilmember Larson.
Thank you.
Item G5.
Item G5, resolution authorizing the city manager to implement the City of Winston-Salem approved COVID-19 vaccination policy. Community Development Housing General Government Committee forwarded this item without recommendation.
Thank you. Since the committee meeting, the staff has made some adjustments to the policy that address some of the concerns council members raised and clarified some things. I'm going to ask Assistant City Manager Ben Rao just to very briefly go over those staff changes that were made to clarify items. Mr. Rao.
Good evening, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tempore Adams, and members of the City Council. As Mayor Joines noted last week, the Community Development Housing General Government Committee considered a proposed vaccination policy. What has been provided on the agenda today includes some clarifications that staff has made since that meeting. And I'm just going to briefly note those. What you'll see in your agenda is a kind of a strike-through version of the policy that has some language removed and some language added. So I'm just going to briefly touch on that. We noted that the implementation date in the title for the policy would be October 25th, 2021, which would be next Monday. As far as the language concerning the $1,000 incentive, we just wanted to make it clear that the incentive would be available to employees who were fully vaccinated prior to the effective date of the policy. So this incentive would be available for previously vaccinated employees as well as employees who demonstrate proof of that full vaccination during what we're calling the 6-week incentive period. And that's also noted in the policy. Also, as far as the reduced incentive, that would be available to employees who provide proof of full vaccination during the 4-week testing period that would come after the 6-week incentive period. So we note that for both full-time employees as well as for part-time employees. With regard to the testing period, we just wanted to make sure that it was clear that there is a mandatory 4-week testing period that would start after the 6-week incentive period. So during the 6-week incentive period, there would not be any testing. That would start after the 6-week incentive period. So that's when any unvaccinated employees, whether or not they have an exemption, would be required to submit to weekly testing. Also just want to make it clear that the city is paying for the testing, and that also that employees would be able to get their tests on city time, but we want to make it clear that if they had to be late for work or if they had to miss a shift, that they had to work with their supervisor, and their supervisor had to approve that absence or that tardiness. Also, we wanted to note that antibody testing would not be accepted in lieu of a vaccination or a mandatory COVID-19 testing. And then finally, towards the end of the policy, we did have language in there about staff reporting back to council on the effectiveness of the policy. We want to specifically note that the city manager would present a report to the mayor and council at the December 14th meeting of the Community Development Housing General Government Committee. At that time, we would provide the data as far as vaccinations, as far as our vaccination rate during the 6-week incentive period, and would then seek guidance from council about next steps, how we should proceed going forward. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rao. Are any questions on those modifications or changes? Councilor Mundy.
Thank you, Mayor. We had discussed removing the punitive language, and I think I'm looking at the correct, most revised copy, and that has not been removed, which gives me great concern. There's still the threat of termination if 2 testing periods are missed. Also, that people who are unvaccinated will not be eligible for promotion. So, Mr. Rao, can you explain the difference in what I'm seeing and what was discussed?
Let me respond to that, Councilor Mundy. Those are items that were kind of core pieces of policy that staff didn't feel like they could change on their own. If you'll just hold tight, I think there'll be a motion that will address your concerns.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilor Scipio.
How long will the testing go on? I know we're saying we will pay for people to be tested. Is this in perpetuity, or is it a time period that we would be paying for testing for the COVID?
Councilmember Scipio, right now, according to the policy, there would be a 4-week testing period after the 6-week incentive period. As we noted here, that on December 14th at the Community Development Housing General Government Committee meeting, staff would present a report to you all about where we are, both in terms of vaccinations as well as about a week's worth of testing experience. And at that time, we would look to you all to give us guidance as to how we should proceed beyond the 4-week testing period. But right now, it's just established as a 4-week testing period.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you. This did come from the Housing General Government Committee without a recommendation. And I spoke to the chairman, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, today, and it is without objection, I'm going to recognize Councilmember Taylor for a motion, and then I'll come back. I know Councilmember Larson wants to speak, but Councilmember Taylor, if you'd go forward.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I did have some comments, but I'll just jump straight to the motion because I think we've all sort of been abreast on what the changes are. So I move that the city council approve the following revisions to the proposed vaccination policy. that we remove all references to termination as a part of the disciplinary process for noncompliance with testing. And 2, that we delete the provision stating that unvaccinated city employees who don't have a medical or religious exemption for getting vaccinated will not be eligible for promotion within after the 6-week period has expired.
Second.
A motion and second. Now, Councilmember Larson, I'll recognize you for any questions or comments.
Excuse me. I do not have a specific question regarding the proposal as. I do have an additional comment or amendment I would like to make at some point.
You have an amendment to the motion?
To the resolution.
Do you want to offer a substitute motion, or you want to try and make
No, what he suggested is fine. I just have an addendum to that.
I'm happy to hear that, Mr. Mayor.
Beg pardon?
I'm happy to hear that as the person.
Okay, Larson, if you would state what your amendment.
Yes, I would like us to recognize some goal where we're trying to achieve in this resolution, some percentage. I know Durham, Raleigh, other places have achieved a 70% participation rate. I think for the public and for the staff and everybody involved, it would be good to know what we're trying to actually achieve within our own staffing. And I would recommend maybe a 70% recommendation for participation levels.
Mr. Taylor, would you accept that as a friendly amendment to include that as a 70% goal?
If the council agrees, I would accept it as an amendment to the substitute motion.
Okay, and Councilmember Clark, would you accept that as a second?
No, I would not. I think to set a goal where everyone is starting is not high enough. And I think that's something that the staff can bring back to us in a couple of weeks once we've seen what happens.
That's a good point. The city
and
manager.
I think we need to get some indication from some of the experts on what should be an overall goal. And I think it's a lot higher than 70.
That's a good point.
I do want to comment on the current motion if I could, but I can't accept that amendment to my second.
Let's get city manager to comment on the goal issue. Mr. Garrity.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of City Council. Yeah, I would have the same concern about the goal, particularly because I know many of the individuals who have expressed concerns and have suggested we have a goal. Some of the police officers I've talked to, they want the goal to represent at some point when we would stop testing. And until the OSHA regulations come out, we can't say what that goal would be. So I think it would be unwise to set us up to say, well, if we get to 70%, we're done, because I don't know what the OSHA regulations are.
So your suggestion is we wait till we get those regulations before we set a goal of some sort?
Yes, that'd be my recommendation.
Yeah, Mr. Larson, would that be acceptable to you?
I'm fine to withdraw my recommendation.
All right. So we're back to the original motion. I'm going to recognize Councilmember Clark, who wanted to make some comments on the.
Yeah, just real quick. I want us not to lose sight of what our true goal is, and that is to get back to normal, to get this terrible pandemic behind us. And the best way to do that is for folks to get vaccinated. And what we have proposed, and I thank Mr. Taylor for his amendment, is very much of a carrot, an incentive, a very good incentive for people to get it. And I think in 6 weeks, we can regroup on it. The other comment I would make is there are some OSHA regulations coming down, and we will have to respond to those. But I think we need to wait until we get them and know what they are, and then we can respond appropriately. So I will enthusiastically vote in favor of the amended motion. Thank you.
Clark, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, excuse me, is recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I just want everybody to remember where we've been and where we are now. Where we are now would not have happened without mandates and shutdowns and testing and vaccines and social distancing, hand washing, all of that. We wouldn't be even enjoying this small amount of normalcy that we have. And I know there are people that believe that we would be where we are now as a country or as a city if we hadn't done all of that. I don't believe that. I believe that we will be fighting this virus until we can get it to a controllable place, much like flu or other illnesses and diseases. And that doesn't mean that people won't get sick and people won't die. I just want everybody to understand, I know you know what's going on all over the country, but there's still areas where we are lacking in our ability to get people vaccinated. You know, when the vaccine first came out, everybody was running. Well, old people were. We were running to get the vaccine because we grew up taking shots and boosters from first grade all the way to college to your employers. And we understand, most of us, how important it is to protect ourselves, our families, and our coworkers. I know we will probably revisit this, and I know, and I stated last week that we would have to wait on the OSHA mandates. But I also want everybody to know that people are still dying in Winston-Salem and Forsyth County. As a matter of fact, 5. Our numbers are somewhat down, but even the health director said they go up. After we have a surge of 300 or 400 cases, which we did this weekend, other people would die. And yes, people will say, well, most of the people dying are unvaccinated. Well, a lot of the people dying are both vaccinated and unvaccinated, as with former Secretary Colin Powell. So my heart is in the right place. I just want us to do well by employees, their families, and the citizens of Winston-Salem. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and I certainly agree with your comments. I think we're all going to be looking at your meeting on December 14th as we get the results of this first 6 weeks of incentives, that whether or not we will have to take some additional steps. And of course, as the city manager rightfully pointed out, the OSHA regulations may force us into some stronger actions there. Councilor Scipio, do you have a comment?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I got so many letters and emails from so many employees. I'm sure all the other council members did also. And when we think about what's going on, it really takes me back to think a little differently about where we are. And Mayor Pro Tem did allude to it. For those who are younger than 70, most people have not experienced outbreaks, public health outbreaks like measles and mumps and chicken pox and tuberculosis and polio and diphtheria. And there's a reason why. Because around 1956, all of that was, those shots to be vaccinated were mandated. My children were vaccinated as infants. It started as infants, so they didn't experience these outbreaks. I experienced those outbreaks because the vaccines weren't available. That's why many older people understand the necessity of being vaccinated. Now, this virus is among us, and I just want to say I got vaccinated because I love my family, I love my friends, I love myself, I love the citizens of Winston-Salem, and I don't want to make you sick if I got the virus. It's a gift of love to others. And I hope that people will start thinking about how do they love themselves and their families and their friends. That vaccination is an act of love that weighs heavily for your personal freedom to get it, to save yourself, to save your family. But it's a true act of love because it counters and gives a barrier to that virus that is so devastating. The thought of people dying. I had a friend who died when COVID first started, a wonderful man who had wanted to do something here in Winston with a restaurant at Union Station. He was healthy, he was energetic, but he died of COVID. I don't want to see anyone else I know die of COVID. That's why I love everyone so much that I protect myself. And in doing that, I protect you because I really don't want to make you sick. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Scipio. We do have a motion to approve the policies recommended by the city manager with the changes that Councilmember Taylor has illuminated there relative to termination and promotion. So a yes vote will approve the policy with those changes that Councilmember Taylor brought forth. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy.
Aye.
Councilmember Scipio.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Thank you. That is unanimous. Thank you, Councilmember Taylor, and we'll look forward to December 14th. We have item G6, please.
Item G6, Mayor joins recommendations for appointment to the Public Assembly Facilities Commission, Priscilla Green and William Oakes, term expiring August 2023.
Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All right. A yes vote will approve the Mr. Green and Mr. Oakes. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy.
Aye.
Councilmember Scipio.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Thank you. That's unanimous. Item G7.
Item G7, Mayor joins recommendations for appointment to the Commission on Ending Homelessness, Business Professional Category, Michael Wiseman, term expiring June 2023, William Penn, term expiring November 2023.
Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second, Mundy.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy.
I know both of these gentlemen, so it's a very enthusiastic yes.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Scipio.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Thank you. That's unanimous. Now, item G8.
Item G8, Mayor joins recommendations for appointment to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, Edgar Forrest, term expiring October 2023, Terry LeGrand, term expiring September 2023, Amy L. Fleet, alternate category, term expiring September 2023.
Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Thank you. Move motion by Councilmember Clark, second by Councilmember McIntosh. Any further discussion? All right, go to the roll call. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy.
Aye.
Councilmember Scipio.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Thank you very much. That is unanimous. We'll now go to item G9.
Item G9, public comment period.
Again, this is a time we set aside for citizens to speak to the council. When you're called upon, you can unmute your device, and you have 3 minutes for giving us your comments, and please give us your name and address for the record. We have the first speaker, please, Ms. Martin.
Allie Jones, please unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. My name is Allie Jones. I live in 27106. First of all, tonight on behalf of Hey Out of Winston, we would like to express our happiness that thanks to the increased funding granted to the Department of Reintegration and Youth Development, SOAR was able to accept 5 more applicants than last year and has room for more, which we will continue to promote within our community. So thank you for that. Tonight, I come before you once more to urge the city, particularly Public Safety Committee, to be inclusive in your work with RTI, preparing to decide the 911 mental health response model we will use. We've been told repeatedly that there would be focus groups of different parties that would be impacted by an alternative response model. But so far with the information made available to the public, as far as we know, the only focus group that has been held has been comprised of police officers. In addition to the police, it is imperative that mental health professionals, particularly providers of color, be conferred with to decide how people with mental health needs or other social service interventions would best be served based on the opinion of people who are trained in and deeply knowledgeable about this work. As a person with mental illness who has needed emergency intervention, I am hopeful that a true alternative response model will be selected, but more than anything, I am hopeful that voices like mine will also be heard so that the healthiest model will be what the city decides to proceed with. With that in mind, I also urge Public Safety Committee to work with RTI to speak with citizens dealing with substance abuse and mental health disorders about our needs when in crisis, again emphasizing the inclusion of all residents, especially citizens of color, given the disproportionate impact of police violence on their communities and in memory of our fallen neighbor, Marcus Dion Smith. Thank you very much for your consideration. I cede my time.
Thank you. Next speaker, Ms. Kinney.
Serena Gilpin.
Good evening. Today I will discuss why the vaccine should not be mandated for City of Winston employees. Scientifically, the reason that vaccines are normally promoted to the mass population is to protect the public health by preventing the spread of a virus. We now know that the vaccine does not prevent you from contracting or spreading COVID, either the Delta variant, nor will it stop the spread of future mandated variants. According to findings published by the CDC in July, vaccinated people still contract the virus, transmit it, and carry just as many virus particles as unvaccinated people who get COVID. In other words, there's no difference in the ability to transmit the virus between the vaccinated and the non-vaccinated. A June study released from the Cleveland Clinic found that people with previous COVID infection do not receive any immunity benefit at all from the vaccine. So why are we doing this if we know that there is no public health advantage to getting the vaccine? Why do we want to risk losing our public servants for a vaccine that stands no chance of stopping the spread of the virus? This situation is exacerbated by the fact that more and more we are seeing that the vaccine is causing adverse reactions and deaths. This information is being suppressed by the mainstream media who tell you that adverse effects are rare and insignificant. But tell this to the mother whose breastfed baby began having seizures after the mother was vaccinated, and tell this to the healthy 49-year-old who died from brain and lung tumors after receiving the vaccine. These are actual case descriptions from the CDC VAERS, or Vaccine Adverse Effect Reporting System, that is available to the public. Additional data from the VAERS system shows that the number of deaths, hospitalizations, and permanent disabilities are numerous. Data shows that there have been over 16,000 deaths and 25,000 permanent disabilities after vaccination. There's likely to be many more deaths that are not being reported or acknowledged as vaccine-related. Additional VAERS data shows that the death and adverse reactions to the COVID vaccine are many times higher than all other vaccines combined since 1990. A study in one American medical journal found that the Pfizer vaccine is associated with an increased risk of cardiac events in younger boys. This scientific article led to outrage against the authors who dared to inform the public of potential vaccine risks to children. And all of this is only what we know so far. Earlier, you mentioned the vaccination efforts of previous decades. This vaccine, the COVID vaccine, cannot be compared to those earlier viruses in our history. The polio vaccine took 45 years until it was considered safe enough to distribute. The flu vaccine took 12 years, while the COVID vaccine took only 6 months. In conclusion, the failure to protect the public from...
Next speaker, please.
Dan Rose.
Mr. Rose.
Good evening, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, members of council. Thank you for having me on for public comments. I would like to begin by reminding you all that Crystal Towers is an ongoing humanitarian crisis in our city. A few weeks ago, the Journal published an editorial authored by myself and a resident of Crystal Towers that pointed out the mayor has changed his position on the sale of the building. The mayor emailed Crystal Towers United that same day, demanding a correction and claiming that his position has not changed. However, I'd like to share a little history with you. In 2019, Mayor Joines, you sent an email to Larry Woods, the former head of Hawes, saying that the city was concerned that the sale of Crystal Towers would reduce affordable housing opportunity in the city and in particular in the downtown area. And therefore, you could not support the sale of Crystal Towers. Now you are saying that you cannot support the sale until there's a clear and implementable plan to relocate the residents. These are not the same. The plan that Hawes is offering.
I might just point out, Mr. Rose.
I'm sorry, what?
To the center city of the city. Go ahead.
The plan that Hawes is offering is to convert 40 units of the Lowy building and 45 units in Happy Hill to that housing. And that is not 200 units. In fact, the Happy Hill units that you and the Hawes director have trumpeted have been promised since 2004, when the city came up with a plan to replace 488 units at Happy Hill Gardens. The city and private developers in Hawes acquired lots and proceeded with demolition and planned to build 59 single-family homes and 89 townhouses. To date, only 5 of those houses have been built. And so for you all to claim that Happy Hill is going to be the new home for Crystal Towers residents to justify that sale, when it's already a broken promise that was made during your administration, during your 20 years as mayor. You all say that you want bang for your buck for the money that's there from the American Rescue Plan Act. Well, we haven't seen it. You have a parcel on Northwest Boulevard, which could lead to a maximum of 20 units. You have a parcel on Thomasville Road, a tiny parcel. And we've seen you all give money, millions of dollars, for things like Whitaker Park and Rams Point, which offer paltry numbers of affordable housing. Your administration has failed to provide affordable housing, and now the deficit is over 16,000 units needed. You have 200 of those units already built that need renovation, and we demand that you take seriously the need for funding at Crystal Towers, as they are literally trapped in their homes as elevators are breaking and as repairs need to be made. We wonder where your priorities are.
Thank you very much. Your time is up, Mr. Rose. Next speaker, please.
Beth?
Did you say Beth?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes, I'm here. You'll have to bear with me. I've never done this before. I am as green as can be in doing something like this. So I'm going to start. I want to talk about the COVID vaccination mandates set forth by the city of Winston-Salem. I was very happy to hear what Serena Gilpin had to say. And so to shorten my time a little bit, I'm just going to say that I agree with her on that point, and there's no need to go over it twice. We've heard it again and again and again. But what I would like to address is some of the things that were stated in the email in which you've sent out to the the city employees, specifically regarding number one, I'm sure you're familiar with the email. You've all seen it. We've all received it. In the email, it says, OSHA is currently developing a rule that will require the city to mandate vaccinations for all employees and weekly testings. This is incorrect. I have spent the entire day speaking with federal OSHA and North Carolina State OSHA agents, standard agents. They have both informed me that nothing has been implemented as of yet. The decision on what to be implemented is still pending. North Carolina State OSHA will not consider any recommendation or any change in their policies until federal OSHA issues theirs. And they are still trying to make a determination on that. Once a determination is made, then the North Carolina OSHA will decide what it will implement and when it will implement it. Now, according to their website, the federal level, currently they do not have a rule and have not issued any ETS on mandated COVID-19 vaccinations. So if this is what you're establishing why you want to move forward, or part of the reason why you want to move forward with your mandates, I'm just letting you know what I have found out as a citizen, and ask that you double check what I have found out before you move forward this, because you're putting the cart before the horse. Per OSHA on North Carolina's state level currently has no rule and mandates on the COVID-19 vaccination in the workplace. New York State OSHA is waiting for federal OSHA to make a determination, a decision on a COVID vaccine related standard otherwise known as the ETS. As of today, October 18th, 2001, no decision has been made. According to the North Carolina State OSHA website, of which I was referred to by the agent and speaking directly with the agent, clearly states—
Thank you. Your time. Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Calvin Patterson.
Mr. Patterson.
Good evening, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, City Council members, and city staff. My name is Calvin Patterson. I live in zip code 27106, the North Ward, represented by Mayor Pro Tem Adams. I'm the new president of the Winston-Salem Black Chamber of Commerce, founded in 2002 with a lot of help by former Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Vivian Burke. We currently have two members of the Winston-Salem Black Chamber of Commerce who have been winners of the City of Winston-Salem's Business Planning Contest. Our Vice President, Gloria Hairston, who owns a business, B12 Succeed, which employs ex-felons in reentering the community, and Anita Justice, owner of Dignity Justified, LLC. She's an education consultant and has a traveling museum that focuses on African-American culture, history, and history through art, artifacts, and conversations. I want to turn brief attention with my 3 minutes to Executive Order 13985, signed by President Biden in January of this year. In Section 1, it references the federal government should pursue a comprehensive approach to advancing equity for all, including people of color and others who have been historically underserved, marginalized, and adversely affected by persistent poverty and inequality. And in Section 2, it mentions, for purposes of this order, the term equity means the consistent and systemic, fair, just, and impartial treatment of all individuals, including individuals who belong to underserved communities that have been denied such treatment, such as Black, Latino, and Indigenous and Native American persons. I mention that because as the new president of the Winston-Salem Black Chamber of Commerce, we are partnering or plan to partner with Greater Winston-Salem, Inc. We plan to partner with Flywheel, who is actually a member of the Winston-Salem Black Chamber of Commerce. And we expect to grow our relationship with the S.G. Atkins CDC Enterprise Center, where we held many of our functions prior to COVID-19. We are excited. We are looking forward to 13985 trickling down through the state legislature, through Forsyth County, and ultimately to the city of Winston-Salem, where we can grow our capacity to better serve.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Your time is up. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Nikki Reed.
Nikki Reed, 27103. So I'm very disappointed to learn from current Winston-Salem police officers, EMT, and fire department friends of mine that you're planning on mandating medicine to be injected into their bodies. If they say no, you will punish them with punitive measures. I know many police officers personally. I know how understaffed they are. I hear the stories. I know they will resign if they're mandated. So then what? As an Army veteran myself, I can relate with those in the line of work. Serving others at the risk of our own safety comes with an innate love and an honor that lies within our core being, and an honor that typically, but not always, comes from our family heritage. However, if you force these heroes to put medicine into their body they do not want, they will leave. If you take away their promotions, their overtime, increase their insurance premiums, make them pay a ton of money weekly for the testing that you want them to do, instruct their bosses to write negative performance reviews, they will leave. They don't get paid enough to endure the repercussions of saying no to this mandate. There are currently 776,000 reported adverse vaccine reactions. You've already heard about it. I don't need to recap on that. Have you ever considered that maybe that's the reason they want the choice? Sadly, I don't think you care. That, my fellow brother and sisters in Christ, is evil. It's evil. It's not from God. I just have one more question. Are you prepared for what about is to happen if our EMT, if our police officers, if our fire department leave? What are we going to do as citizens? Have you thought about that? If you put a mandate of 70%, 90%, it's all numbers. I mean, we get the politics behind it all. Have you thought of that? Because as a citizen, I have, and it's terrifying. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Jean Alsop.
Hi, thank you for this moment. Mayor Joins, council members, and city attorney. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of the Piedmont Triad, I wish to thank you deeply for your endorsement of the redistricting resolutions. With your approval, the city of Winston-Salem publicly announced that it supports open and fair and participatory redistricting. Personally, I wish to thank you for taking redistricting seriously. That's all.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Miranda Jones.
Ms. Jones.
Greetings, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of City Council. Just last week, Hate Out of Winston received the great report of a resident who was accepted as a SOAR candidate. Our dear sister comrade, our culture Chandler, having heard about the program as a member of Hate Out, was able to assist her cousin through the application process all the way up through approval. Thanks to you all listening and continuing to do the right thing, we believe Daquan is on the path to greater success. We can only hope for increased funding and even more opportunities such as this. A massive thank you to Councilmember Taylor for leading this effort and for the City Council for voting in favor of increased funding for the program in its last budget cycle. We hope to see more funding next year as you examine the measurable outcomes of the program. Now we're here asking that you find ways to resurrect youth build, particularly with the violence that continues to occur. We continue to worry about the impact COVID and how the lack of face-to-face learning may have impacted marginalized students. We haven't looked at the data, but we surmise that there may be some correlation between COVID and violence, gang activity, and the increased dropout rate. As an educator, this year alone, I've had students drop out, and I've also had students go to jail, unfortunately. It seems that every other day, another gun is found, and the answer does not lie in increased law enforcement presence or criminalization. In the words of my comrade, Allie Jones, you've committed to the outside with cure violence. Now it's time to commit to the initiatives that are run right here at home. I would like to add those with boots on the ground and those with measurable outcomes. Similarly, we continue to write articles asking that the local school board relax its policy around bringing in mentors with criminal records to work with troubled students. And we're getting feedback that this is being looked into. Perhaps a partnership with SOAR can be forged here as there is a relationship, as well as a relationship can be forged with vocational rehab for those with IEPs and those with 504 plans for both adults and youth. We continue to press them to create a rites of passage program. We continue to ask that restorative practices be used instead of punitive practices. We're asking you as our leaders find a way to bring back this program. We're asking that this be considered as a part of your comprehensive reparations program. I see the rest of my time.
Next speaker, please.
Patty Sheets. Patty, press *6 to unmute.
Is that okay? Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to thank you. I've never done anything like this either, and I think a couple of speakers back said the same thing. And I too want to just confirm and echo the second speaker who so eloquently gave all the facts about the lies and the false information out there about the COVID vaccine, the vaccine itself. I am one of the people, and by the way, I'm right there at 70 years old, so I am aware of all the booster shots, the polio, all those vaccines. I get that. I was part of that. And yes, there were several more years in research on those shots that there have not been for this vaccine. And another thing I want to say is it's kind of a low blow to put the shame on those of us who have not been vaccinated and we refuse to be vaccinated because of our belief in Jesus Christ and the power of our immune system based upon our faith. And I think somebody had stated that to get the vaccine is an act of love. That is twisted, it's shaming, and it's judgmental. And I took great offense to that. I love my family. I love my grandchildren. They are everything to me. But above all, I love Jesus Christ and I love my God who has power over all of us. And I am also a survivor of a father who my grandparents escaped communist Russia. I know the signs of fascism. I know the manipulation of how the communists herd their community and then take control over them. And this vaccine is one of those tools in which to control us. And to end this, I want to say, if you want to get the vaccine, get it. This is America. I also come from a military family. I have members very close to me who are in the military who have been forced to take the vaccine, or they would face not only being discharged, but dishonorably discharged. So I stand up now for the police officers, the people in public service, the firemen, especially the one who spoke today and asked that we make these phone calls. It is appalling that they be forced to get these vaccines. They are already sacrificing so much, and now you're asking them to sacrifice maybe by death because of the reaction they may get from the vaccine. There is not enough information on these vaccines, and it is wrong to force people to have them put in their bodies. This is the United States of America, the freest nation in the world, and I am very disappointed in all of you for pushing this through. Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate that I still live in a country where I'm allowed to speak, because I don't know that it'll last
Thank you.
much
Time's
longer.
up.
Thank
Next
you.
speaker.
Unity Wellness Center.
Good evening, Mayor Joins, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and council members. I'm Sarah Hines, co-founder of the Unity Wellness Center of Winston-Salem. My address is 1447 West 4th Street. I am here on behalf of our grassroots organization. We're a hub of connection and collaboration that values mental health, holistic wellness, health equity, addiction recovery, and compassionate community care and violence prevention and disruption. I speak to you today about the escalating, continuing community violence that we are experiencing in our city and county. As we are all aware, all of these tragedies, the guns found in our school campuses, and the continued violence and fights are all additional reminders of just how deeply our citizens, young and old, are hurting. Untreated pain, desperation, and hopelessness is feeding into cycles of trauma and violence within our communities. This violence happens in our homes, outside in our common spaces, at our schools, and everywhere in the community. And frequently, youth violence is found in this deadly mix. Violence, youth or otherwise, is becoming a very ordinary occurrence in our city and is the third leading cause of death in teens and children. The consequences of violence touches us all, from the victim to the perpetrator to the family and friends of both. There are no winners, we all lose. These recent tragedies are reminders of how badly we need to fill in the gaps in our mental health and addiction recovery services. Because untreated pain, desperation, hopelessness, and various addictions all feed into cycles of trauma and violence. We must also recognize and address the tremendous gaps in compassionate and accessible mental health services for our most vulnerable and historically marginalized communities. We can and must do better. We need to approach community violence like the public health threat that it is in our very divided city, while also acknowledging the role that long-standing systemic and structural inequalities are playing in the escalating violence and worsening mental health of our community members. COVID-19 has only worsened the pre-existing physical and mental health disparities within our communities, all contributing to the violence that many of us see, hear, witness, and experience every day. And we must respond quickly and compassionately. with new strategies that center all voices and lived experiences in the process. Council members, I respectfully implore you to support innovative, transformative community care and violence disruptive programs such as those offered by our Unity Wellness Center, as we are poised to play a key role in the harm reduction and violence prevention within our city and county. We look forward to partnering with each of you to make our communities safer, happier, healthier, and more equitable. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And last speaker.
Pam White.
Hi, thank you for meeting with me tonight. This is new for me as well. When COVID-19 hit, I was one of those moms that made 500 masks and donated them to the hospital. I have friends in the hospital that has had COVID. Recently, a co-worker was in the hospital. He was double vaccinated. I've also have family and friends that's had COVID prior. My mom's 70 years old, my aunt 75, and they've done just fine. I come today because I have children that work in the hospital. They've been on the front lines from the very first day. They're all in their 20s. And it just tears me apart to see that they were heroes before and now they're not. We've encouraged our children to make a difference, and one of them studying to be a paramedic, and he's been an EMT, and they all feel like they're getting punished. They're wanting to get married. My son's friend's 34 years old, and a couple of months ago got the vaccine and had a stroke. My daughter-in-law's friend, who's a nursing student at Winston-Salem State, has an aneurysm from the vaccine. I also have a friend, my groomer's mother has had blood clots and been in ICU twice. I have family members that have the vaccine, and I have those that don't. But it's America, like they said, and I think they need to make their own decision. As a parent, it's hard to let your children grow up, and sometimes you see them make choices that you don't necessarily approve. But we have to let it go. This is not a decision that should be even discussed upon this panel. It should be done in their own home. My children make their own decisions. They're young adults, and I have to let them do that. And sometimes we learn better when we make decisions that maybe are not the best, and that influences others even more. But I'm all for, antibiotics that are natural too. Isn't that better than man-made? I don't know that anybody here is a doctor. And like I said, I don't care if you get the vaccine or not. I think that's your choice. But I'm begging you, as mother of children, as four that's in the medical community, they need to decide for themselves. One has underlying health conditions and having seizures. I don't know each and everyone's medical condition, but they need to decide what they put in their body, what drug they have. As my understanding, FDA hasn't approved this yet. It's overseas. But neither way, it's no shame if you take it. It's no shame if you don't. I worked long beside of people who have it and who don't. And I love them still the same. But I'll let them make their decision. Then the consequences are yours. And it's not on your hands. It's not because of you. Because if they get the vaccine and something goes wrong, then it's their consequences they face. If they don't and something goes wrong, then it's consequences that they face. And empower the people like the government was set up. Thank you.
Thank you for your call. Thank you. I will close the public comment period. Council members, as you know, we have a need for a brief closed session. I'd recognize Councilmember Scipio for a motion, please. Oh, Councilmember Taylor.
Yeah, Councilmember Scipio, excuse me for interrupting your motion. I just wanted to make 3 points related to public safety issues that came up today, Mayor, if I'm allowed to do so.
Yeah, please go ahead, Mr. Cook.
Just really quickly, 3 points. The compromise that we hammered out today on the COVID-19 policy, just wanted to say that it wasn't creating the vacuum. We did run it by our police and our fire association personnel, and they did agree to support the compromise that we voted on today. Some comments came up as it relates to youth violence and youth build. Just want to say very quickly that we are working on revamping the youth build program, turning it more into a job shadowing program that includes construction like youth build, but also focuses on science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Lastly, as it relates to the mental health response models, I just wanted to say to Ms. Jones and others who spoke, we will allow an opportunity to hear from our mental health professionals to gather their suggestions on the co-response and the alternative response model. So I just want to say that really quickly. We heard you loud and clear, and we are making those adjustments.
Thank you, Councilor Taylor. Now I would recognize Councilor Scipio for a motion, please.
Yes. I move that the city council go into closed session pursuant to GS 143-31811A and 3 to consult with and provide instructions to the city's legal staff in the matter of State of North Carolina on relation of the city of Winston-Salem versus Steel Rolling Hills LLC et al. 20 CVS 3821.
Is there a second? Councilor Clark, second.
Second.
So a yes vote approves us going into a closed session. Councilor Larson?
Yes.
Councilor Clark?
Yes.
Councilor Mundy?
Aye.
Councilor Scipio?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor Taylor?
Yay.
Councilor McIntosh?
Aye.
Councilor Burke?
Yes.
Thank you. We will now go into closed session. Ms. Martin will move us over. Everybody made the time travel back. So I would entertain a motion to end the closed session.
So move.
Second.
Second. All in favor of ending the closed session, please say aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed to ending the closed session? All right, thank you. I would then entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is second to adjourn. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
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 If there's anyone opposed to adjourning, please say no. Thank you very much, council. We are adjourned.